go for it. Sweet. Cool. Okay, sweet. Where were we? So I guess I had just kind of shared about this, like my how I'm currently thinking about it, like this coming of agey sort of thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, so like you kind of asked maybe a different version of this question, but and I guess we've kind of been talking about, but I guess I'll repose it in case there's a new like something new comes to mind of like yeah, and what ways do you feel like you are more satisfied with your life now than I don't know some hypothetical of where you know never quit your job into it. I
Mm.
suppose actually like paired with that, like what ways do you feel like your life is worse now than if you had never quit your job at into or less
Dang,
satisfied?
yeah. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, right. Okay, so the to recap some of the things that we've been talking about for me, would be I've been able to dedicate so much time to learn, to create, to explore ideas and try some of them, to fail, to uh, discover, new things that during that time that I don't know if I would have otherwise. Um, so yeah, all of that is amazing and it's made my life so good. And maybe a good way to put this, like aspects of my life that I care about deeply, like flourishing and well-being. So if I look at my mind, I learned a lot about my mind and like how to live with it. Uh, I've learned a lot about my relationships and how to improve those. Uh, and yeah, I've learned things about my body. I've learned things about just like living well, and that's been amazing. That's also a passion of mine. As I said, that was like a kind of topic of interest for my like first mission that I told you about in terms of like those two big missions I had. Um, yeah. Hmm. So the opportunity to do all those things, that's amazing. Uh, Another funny example of this is like I I've had a lot of time maybe in the past months to try out um, meditation in a way that I've never done before, and it does take like a bit of time, and yeah, I don't know, to think that I could have the time to do like a mini meditation retreat by myself or something like that, or even with other people, whatever. Um, Again, like calling upon the somewhat this joke of like I was able to shape my own master's program over the years. It's also like I could shape my own meditation retreat. I could do these things on my own, and it's been great. It's been super cool. I love that. Um, Now, the not so great things that I wish I didn't have to do, or like could definitely avoid in life if possible. But um, yeah, the ways that maybe my life is worse off. I'd say mainly social stigma is like a big thing. I think, okay, I'll do two stories as just like quick examples. One is like just showing up to my friend's like Thanksgiving or something like that, and his mom asking me about what's going on in my life, and I give her a little update, and then she kind of ends the conversation by saying like, "Oh well, I'll be praying for you," and just like know that like we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers, so to say. And this was because I didn't have a job at the time, and um, it kind of that framing for some people would look at me and think that like he's so in need of help. So I'm going to pray that he would get help. Like, you know what I mean? Like the framing of that is very interesting. It's the same way that you might
Mm,
frame somebody who's sick. Like, oh, we're praying for you. You know what I mean? And it's
mm,
like, no, I'm actually flourishing. I'm doing great. That's one way of
mm,
looking at this, is that people might see me that way. And that's like not at all accurate of like, I don't
mm. How did you feel when she
need,
said that?
oh, I mean, all these things, like a sense of like, you are misunderstanding, and not in like
Like an
a,
anger or a sadness or something?
yeah, I think it wasn't angry. It wasn't like, uh, you know, very emotionally written. It was more like, oh, like there's a disconnect here, and that's unfortunate. Like I don't know how to approach this in a way that I'd like to make this better, but I think what this person fundamentally values and how they view the world and how they just like see things, it would take them a long time to struggle to like really grasp that like I don't need to be I don't need this help. I don't need to like be seen in a light of like pity or anything like that. And yeah, which ironically I suppose is similar to what I was talking about with my parents, where it's like uh it took them a long time to understand that like it's okay. Like I'm okay. Like I'm not at a
Mm,
huge risk right now. Like I'm not um gambling my life away right now with this decision. Uh yeah. So I think that's a big thing. So the second story maybe would just be a more simple one, like where I overheard in a moment of like walking to the kitchen the other day, like my roommate trying to explain to his mother, like, oh, my friend just moved in and he left his job and he's doing this thing. And I noticed that like it was very difficult for him to describe it and explain it.
mm,
So in the same way that I struggle to explain myself to people to be understood, like I think other people, when they think about my life, or they would go to describe it to anyone else, they'd be like at a loss of words. They'd be like, I don't know how to explain this. And that feels okay. Again, for the context, I really don't like being misunderstood. I really crave being understood by people. And given that context, like this circumstance,
mm,
it feels really bad for me. I do not enjoy it at all. And I wish that I was more relatable. I wish that I was more understandable. I wish that like, yeah, uh, people would really see it for how I see it and what it truly is.
mm.
And I don't want people to take pity on me. I don't want people to like, think that I'm in need of help, think that I'm just like struggling when that's just not true. And I don't want people to be like confused or like uh, uncertain or concerned. The, that's like a cluster of feelings. I'm just like, oh, if I could change that, oh my gosh, like this definitely is a
Mm,
major struggle for me. And I think that clusters with the stigma of like
mm,
um, there's a risk of judgment as well, not just misunderstanding, but also just being like, yeah, he's lazy or he's incompetent or I don't know. There's a lot of different views and stigmas around somebody who doesn't have a job, and I could be associated with any of those labels potentially. And
mm,
gosh, I do not enjoy that at all.
yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like a recurring pain point has been this like not feeling relatable and not feeling understood and
Mhm.
like, not really knowing how to like explain or like legibilize yourself in a way that like is
Yeah.
easily like packaged and understood. And um yeah, some yearning for that. Um
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
finding that a little harder to come by now that you're like doing something that, well, a lot of people haven't done. And so like of course they can't. It's harder to relate to.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I'm
It's
curious
so
like how
difficult.
you sorry, go for it. Please.
Uh, I was gonna say it's so difficult that like both me and other people in my life don't even have the words to describe it. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate. But yeah. What were you gonna ask
Yeah.
them or say?
Yeah, I was curious, like how do you approach that? Like how like is that something that you is that something that you would like to be different? Are you actually like pretty at peace with that? Like and like embrace it?
No, I'd say I'm not a piece of that. Unfortunately, I'm trying to be. That's something that
Mm,
like I'd like to explore in therapy or just like get a bit more time to make sense of it, to process it, to come more at ease with this. I would definitely say that I'm not like riding this pretty easy right now. Um, So what am I doing about it? I guess I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm trying to find ways to communicate better. I think that that'd be a big thing. Because the easier it is
Mm,
to explain something in a way that makes sense to people, they're going to understand it better, they're going to relate to it. Um, and maybe I'm just seeking to improve my abilities in that front. Like this conversation is a huge way for me to be like, wow, communicating about the thing in my life that I definitely would say is one of the most misunderstood things, and one of the things I therefore struggle to probably communicate well and feel relatable on. I think I've had so many moments of struggle and misunderstanding from people in conversation that I also might have an unfortunate bias of assumption of like, at the very beginning, no matter who I'm talking to, it's very unlikely that they're going to understand me. So that
mm,
sometimes is even like,
like you write off the
like
conversation before you even start, potentially.
exactly. Yeah, I think that is a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that. That's something that I was doing for a while. Like I remember for a while it was like really hard for me to talk about like my travels. It was just like I had no like well, you got a couple hours, and like and not wanting to like
Yeah.
not wanting
Yeah.
to diminish my own experience, but also not knowing how to like communicate about it. And yeah,
Mm.
yeah, so I relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say
Okay.
like oh sorry, go for it.
No, go, please, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like, yeah, I notice hmm. Yeah, I feel like grateful that that's not something that I worry about anymore.
Oh,
And
wow.
like talking about it now, like is like reminding me like, oh, like this is something that I really like, yeah, definitely that I struggled with a lot. And so like feeling a lot of like care, like yeah, sucks. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. So you said you've felt that before, but you don't now. Do you suppose you've done things that you worked on that really helped you address that?
Yeah, I think so. A lot. Yeah, I think previously, um, yeah, for myself, uh, I think I've realized that a lot of my desire for other people to understand me had roots in like me not understanding myself, like my a lacking like relationship to myself. And so
Yeah.
I think
Wow.
like deepening that
Mm.
like through like doing a lot of IFS and like doing like journaling
Mm.
and like I mean I actually honestly like those are the two main things to be honest. Honestly
Sure.
IFS is very helpful. Yeah, I think I got to a point where I was like, oh like I see myself, I understand myself. Like I see why this stuff is important and matters to me. Like obviously like I would like other people to understand and like if they don't, they don't, you know? Um
Mm.
and yeah, like to get like yeah, I feel like I'm now finally at a place where like I can even like joke about it. Or like I can like take it lightheartedly. Like if someone's like, oh, like
Mm.
have you just been like what have you been doing the last few years? Like just traveling? It's like, yep, just drinking beer the whole time. Like or like, and I can like have like, I can have fun
Yeah.
have fun with it rather than like feeling really hurt of like this like another person doesn't understand. Like another person is diminishing or like flattening or reducing. Um, like that was a specific part
Yeah.
actually that like that was a whole like thing to work through. Yeah, I'll have you actually
Mm.
like share more
Mm.
about that. Um, but yeah, yeah. So,
Mm.
but suffice to say, like, yeah, I like definitely really resonate with it. Like, yeah, not feeling relatable and something that like, yeah, that was a struggle. That was a struggle for a long time.
And would you say differently, like what perhaps is the worst thing about this for you? I'll start there and then I want to ask you about the good one too.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, let's see, what is worse about my life now that I don't have like given that I quit my job, last job rather than staying in it. Um, hmm. I mean, it's a bit hard to answer, right? I mean, like, I guess I would say in a way, like, relative to my what I care about now, um, it's a bit hard to imagine like what is worse, like what is worse about my life now. Like, my life is pretty fucking awesome.
Mm.
Um,
Nice.
um, I think, um, um, but I think that's also because my like, yeah, because some of the things that I found important have shifted some. Like, I think even, at the time that I quit my job, like on some level, the like traditional path, like American dream, like buying a house, having kids, getting married, like that whole thing, was still quite was still important to me.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, still like certainly like some things not like having a family is something that like is really important to me that I would, yeah, I think
Mm.
if I had stayed, like I would have more money. Like I might have like looked into buying a house.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I might have been on the path of like having a family. Um, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, which like makes sense because that's what like that lifestyle is optimized for, is like making progress along that path. Um,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and like now, um, yeah, I mean, like, it would be really great to have like be getting married and doing the thing, I
Mm.
would like those. I would like that. And I think like I was just straight up completely like not capable of having the kind of relationship that I now want back then. Like the
Mm.
level
Yeah.
of depth, the level of intimacy, the level of support, the
Yeah.
level of understanding, the level of like all that stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
like I was not capable of, 3.5 years
Mm.
ago, and I'm like, it's still a work in progress, but like I'm slowly like growing into like being able to like do those things,
Yeah.
and like meet myself in those ways as well as like someone else, in those ways, in a way that like I think, um, yeah, will lead to like
Mm.
so much more satisfying of a like rest of life, so much more nourishing of a
Mm.
family, so much like
Yeah.
less intergenerational trauma passed on, like so much
Right.
more like love and care and nurturing and all that stuff. And so, um,
Yeah.
yeah, like now that I feel like I know what a relationship is capable of, like,
Yeah.
I'm sad that I'm not in one right now. And like, just, yeah, I think the ceiling is so much higher now, for what I'll be able to have.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's exciting. I think there's something in there around like local community. I think that's a large that's in large part a function of how I've chosen to live the last few years, like moving around a
Hmm.
lot. Um, and yeah, like over particularly in the last year, like realizing how valuable it is to like be somewhere and to like invest in
Yeah.
people and a place like longer term.
Totally.
And I'll say like I wasn't doing that in LA. You know, like it's like being in a place is necessary but insufficient for like actually laying down roots. You know, like I was living in LA, but like I wasn't connecting to the land. I wasn't connecting to any of the people I lived with. I wasn't connecting to the local
Mm.
community or government. I wasn't invested. Like, and so, like just because I could have if I had stayed, like looking like I don't think I would have done those things. Um, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's a great point.
yeah. So
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean like to say like worse. Yeah, I mean honestly, like I feel like my life is pretty incredible. And so it's like I can't really point to anything that I feel like is worse now than if I had
Uh,
stayed.
yeah. I really like what you're saying. I want to call it something that stands out to me that seems kind of profound in a way that I don't know if many people would consider this, but the general thing that I remember you started this saying like, oh, well, obvious things like I don't know, money and a house, and then like starting a family and things like this. It's like the trajectory that, you know, having a stable, good job would put you in towards, like largely speaking, like these are kind of like resources, maybe like money and a house, and a perspective like that would say, okay, early access to resources, that's great. Everyone obviously wants these things. But uh, like actually withholding that a little bit until you're like a little bit older, a little bit wiser, so to say. I don't know. Uh, is like I would always make that trade-off, and I think you would as well, in terms of now you can appreciate whatever those resources might enable, like you're saying, like a family or um, what like building a community. And that, yeah, there's some sense that maybe having the early access to that as a young adult, it's quite likely that we would have neglected those things and like lacked a depth of appreciation or connection to these things, and wouldn't necessarily be fully living within them in the ways that we would actually want and know that are like so much better. You talked before about raising the bar on something like of what's possible and how to live your life, how to connect with people, how to, you know, build community, how to, yeah, just probably, I don't know, use money and live in a home. Like the things that many of these resources are, yeah, pretty foundational too. But yeah, that how much better to build within yourself the capability of, you know, actually finding joy in all these things and appreciation and gratitude, and like to have that within that is what actually makes for the good life, you know. Is kind of what I would say, looking in retrospect at that. Like I don't think I would have understood that or said that in an earlier time of life, even if I had a bunch of money, I had a house, I was on my way to just like what I thought of, okay, yeah, the good life is having these things to have, to like in like all these classic resource senses. And uh yeah, there's so much more to it. Anyways, I'm just excited by what you said. And I was kind of resonating with that. So I wanted to echo some of that back in my own words, I suppose.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm.
Yeah. 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 Definitely like this. Mm, yeah, like resonating with this, like almost like I don't know. I like really don't like the word transformation, but like this, like, yeah, this like, you know, like not even realizing how like different things can be like before kind of
Mm.
having taken the step.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one fun and simple way for me to summarize it from my own perspective is like, I'm so glad that at a younger age, I didn't jump into large commitments, like, you know,
Mm,
getting married, having a kid, or like buying a house, things like that, that I just like, the more I learned, the more I realized how like better I could be in all of those aspects.
yeah,
And
totally.
to think, looking
Yeah,
back at like myself at early 20s, like, yeah, I'm so glad that I didn't like throw myself at such large commitments, because I don't
totally.
think I would have handled them well. And I'm
Yeah,
not like, I know
100%.
I can handle them better now, but also I recognize now like how much I still have yet to grow in, and like, yeah. Anyways, there's like a
Totally.
lot of learning in that realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like looking back, like like I wasn't capable of giving a full yes, a full consent, like a full commitment. Like I didn't even know it, like I didn't know myself well enough to be able to do that. Like I don't understand what commitment, like what that meant. Like, and I don't understand
Mm,
like like the cost of making a commitment that I don't actually want to make. Right. You know, like
mhm,
the
mhm,
how like resentment and how like that like and how stuff like that can corrode a relationship or corrode or whatever. Um
mhm.
and so like, you know, like I did commit to things and I could have committed to things and like uh yeah, there's meaningful ways in which like I had no clue what I was doing. And
Yeah.
so I would like, you know, if I'd gone through with those commitments for my whole life, like I probably would have suffered in some ways that like
Mm,
I never would have realized that I was suffering.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose it's good to point out that you did make commitments. And I suppose I should take a step back and say, like, yeah, I think commitments are essential and good, and they help you learn. And like, I'm not advocating for this idea of like, oh, just like don't commit to things while you're young.
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's like larger things. Like, for instance, I'm so glad I didn't have a kid in my early 20s, or like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, where it's like
Totally.
much
Totally.
larger scale, like long term, especially things that you can't really undo,
Yeah.
or like you
Yeah.
can't like more
Totally.
permanence in a sense. So yeah, things like
Totally.
that. That maybe
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about when I look back at that. And yeah, I just see that.
Mm.
Yeah, we probably both would have been very much on track for that,
Mm.
given like a more, yeah, I don't know. Not saying that these any of these things necessarily fully equate to like, oh, having a job means you do that, but like, yeah, just
Mm.
that we were both
Totally.
on track towards that, and I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it was good to like disrupt that flow in order to, well, at the time maybe not in order to become wiser, but like like an
Totally.
outcome of that has been this, and I'm like, it's scary to think otherwise. Like, so that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for that. So
Totally.
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
maybe to go back to some of our original question, which is like, you've summarized like a lot of great things about how you feel given your state of not being in a job versus still being in the same job. Yeah, what do you think is like the best, or uh, all the good? Like, what would be so much better in this route versus the other?
Oh man. I mean, a lot. Um, yeah, I think the nature of like all like my relationships.
Mm,
I mean like the most stark one is like my relationship to my mom. I don't think I would have like been able to do all of the
mm,
like relational work, like all the work with her, without having the spaciousness of like not having a job, that I've done.
yeah.
Um, where like it's I mean it's still kind of ongoing. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
after this last thing, I'm like, man, like that was pretty fucking huge. Like I don't like it feels like we're near the if we're not at the bottom, like we're near it.
Yeah.
But like, you know, after this last one, I mean like God, like even just this it's like my entire orientation towards my mom is different now. Like it's like I
Mm,
now like we're like my net I used to be like, oh, like she's super frustrating, super difficult, and like narcissistic. And now I'm like, she is a wonderful woman who has always loved me deeply.
wow.
And it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I mean, it's like 180. And I mean, like, I like have this working theory that like so many of my problems are like have roots in attachment. And like, just
Mm,
if, and where like, I think I was sharing like, you know, just talking to strangers in the past,
mm,
like I'd be full of like nervousness before, and then I'd talk to them, and while talking to them the whole time I'd be like, oh, like do they still want to do they actually want to talk to me, and I'd be really like nervous and like and just even in the last few days like talking to people has been like so chill. Like I can just like I can be just like grounded in that and just like
Mm,
and like the foundational insight is just like this like I am lovable and
mm,
my like I have been loved the whole time. I have been just surrounded and immersed in abundant love the whole time. And so like any new love, like more the definitely like the more love the better. And like I don't like if this person in front of me like doesn't like me, rather than like it's like be like desperately trying to cling to it. It's like, yeah, like that's okay. Like it just feels okay. Like it's um yeah. And I mean like if like the last 3.5 years like if this was the only thing that I'd gotten in the last 3.5 years, I'd be like priceless, worth it. Like
mm,
like just this
yeah,
one like to like feel lovable, to feel comfortable in myself, to
yeah.
feel like I can be grounded in like
Oh my
any
gosh.
like in like like arbitrary relational situations, just like
Mm,
priceless, like superpower, like relative to
yeah,
where I was like 3.5 years ago, like little superpower. um
right.
and like yeah, so I mean that's just one thing. But yeah,
Right.
like the depth
Yeah.
of my relationships with like my friend, like the people around me, the way that I'm able to connect, the way that I'm able to like support and listen, to like
Mm,
get and receive it, to ask for it,
yeah.
like relationally, like all just like feel like another league. Um,
Mm,
at least in those respects.
mm,
Um, yeah, in terms of like feeling like a person, like I like often say that at the time when I quit my job, like I feel like I was like an
yeah.
interestless person, like just like this like
Really.
generic tech blob person that had been spit out of a good school and stuff,
Oh
and
my
like happened
gosh.
to have like a rebellious streak and like to travel, and like now I feel like I am like I have tons of interests. Like the tragedy is that I will not be
Mm,
able to pursue all of them in a single lifetime, which is like such a beautiful
hmm,
problem to
hmm.
have. Um,
Yeah.
like aliveness, like I do stuff that I care about and like I enjoy.
Mm,
I like resilience, like I like and like self-love and self-wholeness and like the way like the degree to which I'm able to welcome my life and welcome my experience and like not like try and reject it.
hmm,
Like I assume like lifelong work in progress, but like stuff like
hmm.
sadness and anger and like shame, like these are all like feelings that I would like desperately run away from. And now like um I think I'm still working on my relationship to anger and shame, but like sadness just like I love sadness. Like that feels like a weird thing to say, but like God, like feeling sad, like grief, sadness is
Dude.
so fucking valuable. It's like so
Mm,
valuable. And like
mm,
yeah, and so it's like I think previously like I'd be afraid of something that wouldn't make me sad. Now I'm like, bring it the fuck on. Like sadness is valuable. Like what is there to be fucking afraid of?
wow.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so just I mean, yeah, it's hard. Like this is one of those like how many hours you got kind of ones, but it's just like it just feels like across the board. It's just like
Yeah.
just completely different way of orienting myself towards the world or myself or relationships or
Mm,
whatever, that just feels like so much more like abundant and joyous and like exciting and yeah, all
hmm.
those things.
Yeah. Which, how much would you give for that? It's like,
Yeah, like each of those I feel
it's,
like is priceless, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's pretty
yeah,
remarkable.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really incredible. All right, I notice
Mm.
we're coming down to 5 minutes of this one and it's getting kind of late here. Maybe we move towards wrapping up.
Yep. Yeah.
I noticed there's
How
actually
would you
still
like
more
to?
like that I love to ask and talk about. Like one question
Yeah.
that came to me was like, so what have been like some of the most valuable moves that you feel like you've made um
Mm.
in like in this journey? But I don't know. I mean, we could just keep going. Like I don't know, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I think, yeah. Um, yeah, I think there are like one or two things that I'm like, oh man, like gosh, would love to cover that, but if we don't get around to it, it's okay too. Um,
We can schedule a follow-up.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Maybe like a few
Yeah,
weeks
let's do
out. That'd
that.
be fun. Yeah,
Cool. Then okay, how about we wrap it up for now and then we can schedule a follow-up.
yeah, I like it. And
Sick.
yeah, I guess another thing, maybe for the fact that this is being recorded, and if anyone ever does listen to it, I think one thing I would just say is that like if anybody wants to talk to me about this experience, or like ask about it, that I'm very open to speak about any of these things. You know what I mean? And yeah, however they want to reach out, I would gladly receive anyone who wants to talk about this. So yeah,
Love it. Love it. Making yourself available. Sick.
yeah, because there's so
Dude.
much. Yeah, I'm sensing that as we reach into this conversation, even though it's been like, yeah, I don't know, almost an hour and a half, I guess, something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's many more stones to unturned, you know.
totally. Yeah.
Ah, shit,
Take note of
I
them and we
phrased
can
that wrong.
continue. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Many stones left
Yeah.
unturned. Yeah. How
Yes,
are
yes.
you how has it felt to talk about this stuff? Like how are you feeling now?
Dude, really good. I seriously appreciate your questions and the way that you open that space up. And you allowed me to explore the thoughts. I've never had something quite like this before in terms of this topic, and it just felt very, very good. I'm probably gonna have to like listen back over this, in fact, to be like, yeah, did I speak about some of these things okay? You know, because it's been an insecurity of mine for a while, you know, and it felt really good. So I hope that it came out as well as I'm feeling right now, which is like very content with, you know, the sense of making sense of some of these difficult topics. And yeah, feel great. So
Yeah.
thank you. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's like one of my hopes is that like that this is like evidence of uh like that we've spoken for 2 hours and still have more to talk about is evidence
Uh-huh.
of like that like this is not something that is just easily condensable into something bite-sized and like digestible and like easily understood, you know.
Mm,
So yeah. So
yeah.
I hope you cut yourself some slack, I guess is
Yeah. Yeah.
in the trying to explain to other people.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, how do you feel as well about recording this and coming into
yeah,
the
I'm feeling
discussion?
really great. I'm feeling really like full and nourished and like
Oh,
smiley.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
really refreshing to be able to like talk about this with someone yeah,
Mm,
who's had similar experiences and to like hear your story.
mm,
And yeah, there were plenty of parts of it that I hadn't heard before and stuff. And so it was really cool to see like a like different and slash more fleshed out like um
mm,
you know view of you. And yeah, to hear more about and to
mm,
hear about like how you've thought about this stuff and your process. And yeah, it's just been it's been a great like foil and like
mhm.
fodder for my own reflection also and my own understanding. And so I really appreciated that.
That's a great point too, that yeah, I feel very connected to you and very full and nourished as well. Yeah, it's very good. So thank
Awesome,
you
dude.
again.
Yeah, dude. Thanks to you. All right. Cool. Well, I'll stop the recording.